First of all, welcome to this workshop about practical APIs. I'm glad so many people showed up, and I hope you learn a little bit about APIs. The keyword for this workshop is API for easy. So, yeah, you're going to use the VirtualBox environment. So, yeah, this is the key. All right. My name is Urban Etter, or Urban. Urban is my Twitter handle, and on the Easy Slack community, I'm also Urban. So if you want to hit me up there, you can just use one of these methods. All right. I work at Swiss Television, actually Swiss Television and Radio. We have quite a big easy installation with hundreds of journalists using our tool. And yeah, we're also are in the progress of migrating to Easy Platform. All right, so this talk is going to be divided in 4 parts. The parts are first of all very general, and then going into detail a lot more afterwards. So the first one is what an API actually is. The second one is why do you really need an API as a publisher? Then how do you create an API? And the last one is actually about a feature from Easy Publish or Easy Platform, which is the Easy Rich Text field type, which has some impacts on APIs, as we will see afterwards. All right, the exercises are always in a certain format. They're like the main file for you for the exercises is readme.md in the project, and there's always like points what to do, and then there is a bonus which I thought that maybe some people who already know how to do certain things can do the bonus. And if you don't want to do the bonus, you don't have to. And there are always some hints which should help you with the exercise. And at the end, there is a code. And this code, you always see the branch where you start the exercise. And then there's also always a possible solution, which is in another branch. And there's also the GitHub link where you compare the 2 things. It's important to say that it's just my code is just one of the possible solutions. Yeah, but maybe you get some insights from it. So this is the technical part of it. But if you had a quick look at the demo content, you will find out that it's also about Indian Pale Ale. Indian Pale Ale is a beer style, actually, which is one of my favorite at the moment. And what it separates from other beer styles is that it has more hops in it, usually, which also means that most of the time they have a little bit more alcohol volume %. And because of the hops, it's a little bit more bitter. But I actually like that a lot. And the IPA beer style is said to be brewed for long ship journeys to India a long time ago. Then they had to add more hops, so the beer wouldn't get bad in these big journeys. All right, and as I said, it's one of my favorite beer styles at the moment. But the other stuff, or the other thing about it is it's IPA, and this makes an excellent word talk or word play. So we are going to build an IPA API. So yeah, I might switch the words because they're so similar, but yeah, I usually mean API, not IPA. But yeah, hope you get what I mean. All right, so more about the demo content. You will also see that it's about Brewdog. Brewdog is a brewery from Scotland which does excellent beers, well, from my point of view. And their most selling beer is called Punk IPA. And then they also have the Dead Pony Club, which has a little bit less alcohol, but it's also very good. So if you want to see one of those, I would recommend you to try one. And then there is actually Sigibräu, which is actually own creation of mine. I started to brew myself about half a year ago. And yeah, you can taste this, but or can't sample this because it's not really salt. But yeah, that's the third beer. And I realized that it's quite harsh. I mean, we have this beautiful weather here and talking about beer. And I would have liked to bring this beer with me and I give a sample to all of you, but that's not really easy with the customs and stuff. So not doing that, brought the second best thing from Switzerland, which is chocolate. And yeah, I actually, I think I just, or you can pass it along and have one, or with the exercises afterwards. There are actually 3 rows and I have 3 packets. Excellent. All right. So, but now to some technical stuff you're probably also want to hear. And to the first part of the talk, it's what an API really is. You probably also, everybody knows some stuff like Twitter API, where you have a certain URL where you can get a tweet by just providing its ID. You probably also know the EasyREST API from Easy Platform or Easy Publish, where you can get the JSON representation of your content or your Easy object. Then there is the PHP API. There's the public PHP API from Easy Publish or Easy Platform, where you have this content service and you load the content information by calling this function called load content info, and then you get a certain value back where you know you can access like main location ID. So that's also an API. What's actually also an API is this. So you have your class cat, and on this cat class, you have a function which is called lookCute, and then you can call this. SQL actually is also an API because you can specify what you really want to get, and you know that you have to use select and from and where and everything like that. But it's basically an API. Even Bash actually is an API because you know, if you want to have if you do a link, you use this ln minus s. If you want to have a symbolic link, so that's also an API. So what does it really mean, API? API is a application programming interface, according to Wikipedia. And I think there are several parts to this definition. One is that it's an interface, so it's kind of a face to your program, or to your data, or to your content. And it's programmable. And that also means, or gives you already a hint, who is the user of your API. These are mostly like programmers who want to use your API. Then another aspect of it is the building blocks. And I quote Wikipedia: "A good API makes it easier to develop a program by providing all the building blocks, which are then put together by the programmer." So this means that you have like these Lego blocks, which you can mix and match together, and an API provides all of these parts for you to create what you really want. So this means like basically everything could be an API, no? But the thing is that an API really separates the interface from the implementation. And this is quite an important concept. It's specification versus implementation. You could also say what versus how, because an API only specifies what. We can see this pattern also in computer programming languages, because PHP is the most known probably here. I will show you this concept in PHP. An interface is actually just a specification. So you just say, I have this method with these arguments. You don't say anything else. Then you have traits. Traits are basically just the implementation. So if you want to really know what it does, you basically have to see or going into the source code of the trait. And then we have classes. And classes do both of it. They specify the specification, because you say, this is the name of my function, and these are the arguments. And they also provide the implementation. So how this is going to be accomplished. All right, so who wrote the class? Okay, so we're done, right? So it's practical APIs, so yeah, I don't know. Now, of course, it's not like this. But first, I want to introduce you to the demo content. Well, you know now it's about beer. It's about IPAs. And here is a little UML diagram of the two main entities. One is IPA with a name, and the stars. This is actually like a review, like 3 stars out of 5 or 2 stars out of 5. And the description, and one API also has a brewery with a name, a country, and a URL. So that's all for this workshop, and we are going to build APIs for that domain model. The first exercise, which will start in a few moments, is divided in two sections. One is to inspect the implementation, the demo site I've created. Also maybe go in the back end of the easy administration, have a look at the content types, I've built a really basically what I just did, what I just said, and then there's the second part is inspect the demo content by the Easy REST API, which comes for free if you're using Easy Publish, which I think is a very good selling point for Easy Platform. And for using this, you need a little bit more like a advanced client, which is given if you click in Firefox on this button. And if you want to add headers, which for Easy Publish REST API, you have to add headers, or you don't have to, but it's better if you do. You do this by clicking on headers here. So in this case, I invite you to exercise 1. And well, I forgot to, if you have some questions, just ask. All right, so then you have this PHP storm. And you have Firefox. And PHP Storm, you have this project called API for Easy. You open that. And then you have the info about the exercises you have in readme.md. I have a small screen, but then you see there, you see the points and the hints and the bonus stuff. And then you also have Firefox, which has, for the second part of the exercise, which has the REST client needed for Easy Publish REST API. So, clear? And you can have a look at the demo code and just also using the the backend, the Easy Publish backend. So here is the demo site, and if you want to have a look at the backend, you just do like /easy. And then it's like the normal Easy Publish demo user. The username is admin and the password is publish. So all the exercises are basically from this readme.md, and there are all the things you need to know for doing the exercises. And if you don't want to follow the exercises, that's also fine. I could just go on, but all right. So now that you've seen the project, you may wonder why you really need an API, because after all, there is already an easy REST API, and to get to the root of the problem, I first show you a little bit of the problems we have to solve at Swiss TV. And well, it doesn't apply to you if you're building a Slack bot or something, because if you're building a Slack bot, it's obvious that you need an API. But I think it's not really obvious if why you need an API as a publisher. So this is the backend we're providing for our journalists. We have an article is called article. We have some titles, a lead, and then here you have the text of an article, and here you can upload images and then embed those images into the body of the article. So this is how the journalist sees it. And then we have a front-end output of it. This is just a normal HTML representation. But then we started to create a mobile version, which is a little bit, looks a little bit different, but is optimized for mobile apps, or no, mobile, viewing it with the mobile browser. Then there was Google AMP, well, Google, which created Google AMP, and we had to do that as well. And this is the Google AMP representation. Then this is the Facebook Instant Article representation. And this actually is another representation we built for another mobile app, which is displaying the articles in WebView. So you see that there are a lot of representations of the same content. And they're not the same. I mean, for example, an AMP image is, the image tag is called AMP-image, where normally in HTML you just use the normal HTML image tag. So what we decided to do was to create a programmable access to our content. For the idea was that a programmer, either internal or external, could use our API to build his representation or the representation he or she needs. And it's basically all about content delivery. We have this content, and we want to provide this content in a form which allows other people, or also us internally, to render or to display an article as you need, as needed. So we also thought about this definition from Wikipedia, where you have building blocks. And now there are coming some buzzwords, but there are such things as API first, or API as a product, or headless CMS, which is a big word right now. But there, I think, or from the technical point of view, they're basically all the same. I hope nobody kills me now. But it's basically programmable access to your content. So when you remember about the exercise you did, you already have there an API. So you have this easy REST API to deliver content. So yeah, what else do you have to really do? Now it's the time to remember what I said before, that API just specifies what and not how. And the thing with the Easy REST API, it's a programmable content delivery. And the thing with the Easy REST API is not that it's not good or anything, but the thing I want to know as outside or as a programmer is an article. And I don't really care if it's if Easy is the storage engine or Zulu or whatever. What I really care is that I want to have my article. And this leads to this idea that you basically have layered APIs. You may know this from like maybe the school or something where you have this layered images of like you have the storage on bottom, then you have the problem domain, and then you have the user interface. I think it's about the same with APIs. You have like in the storage you have like SQL, which you can use as an API, but you have to know the table names and stuff like that. Then you have the Easy Publish Public PHP API, which is, I think the rest also goes into this second field, where you have an API to basically the easy publish way of storing content. And then I think you also need a domain API, which represents your domain, which in our case, at Swiss Radio and TV, it's an article. But in our workshop, it's an IPA. So that's better, I think. And there's also the mobile app use case. The thing is, mobile apps, one moment, please. Yeah. Request count matters for mobile apps. So if I want to display my list of IPAs, I don't really want to have to just do another request to get the image URL. I want to have it all in one, all the information I need for displaying something, I want to have in one request. Also, the verbosity of the response matters. This means that as a mobile application, I don't want to load this much information I don't really need. I just want to have the information I need to render my page. So that's why I think we can distinct between a high-level API or a domain API and a low-level API. And this is how a domain API would look like now for our demo content, where you have like a name, and you have a review, you have a brewery, and an image. A high-level API is mostly, it doesn't have to be, but mostly it's specified for a certain use case. And the use case maybe is to display all the IPAs in one row. You can tap on it in a mobile app and get more information. So it's highly specified for a certain use case. It also abstracts the internals of your application. It basically abstracts all the easy publish from your content, if you want to. So the consumer of your API doesn't have to know what you are using for storing something. But on the other hand, it's not very flexible. So because it's specified at just one or targeted at just one use case, if you have to support another use case, you probably have to build another API. But yeah, on the other hand, you can then optimize this API call. And usually you don't even need to support XML and JSON. For example, the Easy REST API supports this, but usually you don't really need both, because you have this one use case and you just return JSON, for example. Then we have the low-level API, which I think is the Easy REST API is a perfect example of a low-level API because it has very nice. It works very nice with these MIME types, and it works really nice with these links. So I can basically browse my content with this API. I see here other hrefs, so there are other links to and where I get more information about certain types. A low-level API is one API for loads of use cases. The Easy REST API you can use for almost everything, but you have to know some internals. You have to know what's the difference between a content object and the content info object. And you have to know that there are locations and in which relation the object to a location is, or the content to a location is. And but it's actually very flexible, so you could almost all use cases can be built with this API. It also allows you to choose between JSON or XML. And yeah, that's actually something which is already pre-built into your product if you're using Easy Publish or Easy Platform. So we already have this. So what we don't have is a domain API or a high-level API. And now we're going to build one. So, how to build an API? Well, at the moment, at the Web Summer Camp, our content is not an article, but an API. No, IPA, sorry. And this is the PHP entity, the value object, which has an ID, a name, and a review. We will add later more attributes. And an entity is a value object, which is in PHP, there are no language types which allow you to do like read-only classes or read-only structs, but this would basically be one. So these classes just transport the data. They don't have any logic in it. But because they don't have any logic, you need another class or a service outside of it which loads the API, or basically it loads the content from Easy Publish and then translates it into an IPA entity. They're all public attributes. You may have noticed that there are no getters or setters. Yeah, that's basically just a preference of personal style, but I like to use only like IPA and then the arrow name and not really like get name, because I want to have the name or review or whatever. So it's actually quite the same architecture as you know from the PHP API from Easy Publish, because they also have this content service, and when you use the content service to load content or content info, you get the content info object back. So it's exactly the same. Then we can create PHP entities as a service, and this is how it would look like. You have your IPA service, and then you register it in the Symfony dependency injection container, and you have there the loading content, which is the Easy Publish part of it, if you want so. It returns you a content object, and then you create an instance of an IPA, and you fill the names or the attributes of this entity with the content you load from Easy Publish, which is, for example, the IP name. Yeah, you get the title and then the text. So this is actually the second exercise to create exactly that. And I don't know if you noticed, there's always a branch. You can just switch the branch. Down here, and the starting point now would be master, and the solution I provide you is in the branch PHP API. So depends if you want to build it by yourself, you check out the master. If you want to skip to the solution, you can check out the PHP API branch and have a look how this works and how it's also injected into the dependency injection container. Yeah, interesting entry points would probably be the controller or the services.yaml where you see the new services, and also the entities which are here in the entity folder namespace. Just a short interruption. If you changed to the PHP API branch, you need to clear the cache. You can do this by going to the console and then app/console cache colon clear. I try again. Who wants to continue? Excellent. All right. So now what we have actually is a normalized entity of an IPA. So we have a clear structure, how an API looks, how IPA looks, and how a brewery looks, and how they're connected together. So it's now really easy to convert these entities just to the representation you want to have. So if you want to have an AMP representation, it's now easy to convert it to something. So we're done. No, we're not. But for example, the next step is images. Images are unfortunately not. We can't really send the image data over the wire in a JSON response. So what we actually do is give the URL to the client, so the client knows where he can get or where it can get the image. So this is how it looks like. For example, you basically just add the image, and here we have a full URL. So yeah, maybe it's interesting to note that there's already this is a full URL to a real representation of a certain. Well, there are in Easy Publish there are image representations, which basically means like different sizes. And this already is like a link to a certain size. This is also due to the fact that we optimize for one use case. So we say, okay, look, mobile app, here is the image you want. And then you just choose which image size you need. So now there's actually another exercise which is basically about the image service. But if you want, we can do it a little bit differently, and just I could tell you a little bit about it and how you would implement it. Because afterwards there is more stuff about easy rich text content field, which maybe is more interesting. Is this okay? All right. So what I do now is I switch to image delivery. And the only difference is really you can do the same, because on your screen you see a lot more than I do here. But the real difference is just here how we get the image representation service. There is an image representation service in Easy. Sorry, it's called image variation. Image variation. And I get the image variation service, which in turn returns me an image variation. And in the image variation, I get the URL of the the file, which the client can then get. So yeah, that's basically all there is to know about this one. This it's more like easy specific. So, and since we're now in the easy specific way or part, we can go further and see what the Easy REST API component or framework gives us. Because we now have a representation, but just really the JSON representation of everything. So maybe you want to have XML and JSON representation, or you want to model the relationship between an IPA and a brewery in your response. Because right now, if I want to know if the Punk IPA and that Pony Club is from the same brewery, I would need to compare the names, which is of course not really nice, because there technically could be two breweries with the same name. So yeah, that's not really nice. But then we can actually use another feature from Easy Publish or Easy Platform, and I don't know how it's officially called, but I call it the Easy REST API component, because it allows you to give you some features of the Easy REST API, some features which I think are really nice for free. So you can basically extend the Easy REST API. There's also a how-to in the documentation. Maybe you saw that by Easy REST API extending Easy REST API, and that's actually what we're doing now. So what you need is another controller, a REST controller. You need a REST routing, and at least if you're using Easy Legacy, this has to have a prefix, which I think is /API/easy/v2, because there was another REST API, an older one, v2, and then your stuff. And the Easy REST component uses the visitor pattern. Now, the visitor patterns means that, or what it does is it translates from your entity, which is structured like an IPA and a brewery. It translates into JSON or XML. And it's called visitor because it visits all the entities and creates an output, and this output gets concatenated and then gets rendered. So yeah, that's a visitor. With Symfony, creating an own visitor is quite easy because you have this dependency injection container, and there you have this concept of tagged services. You may know that you have this service name, and then you can specify the class, and then you can also specify tags. And there is a certain tag for visitors, and then you have to specify in the tag for which entities this visitor should be used. And then Symfony does its magic, and then you get this used by the Easy REST API component. So this is how a Easy REST visitor looks like in its very basic version. You get there is also an API of this visitor. You have the function visit, and you get the visitor, which kind of represents the visitor pattern. And then you have a generator, which is either an XML generator or a JSON generator, but you don't have to care about that because they both have the same interface. And then you get the data, which will be, in our case, our API entity or our brewery entity. So then you start with the generator and start object element, IPA. And object means in JSON, it means something slightly different than in XML, but it's the same concept. So you have object element, and then you have something like value element, where you can give as a second parameter, you can specify the real value of it. And then you end the value element. And then you start value element and end value element again. And at the end, you have the end object element. So this gives you then what you now have from just the JSON output serializer from Symfony. But the thing which now really adds more value to your API is the stuff which comes now. And this is the MIME type. And MIME type handling and the href, which what I mean with that is that it makes your API browsable. So it will in your Easy REST API or Easy REST IPA API, you have a link to the brewery, for example. So you can then go there and see if you want to get more information about the brewery. You get this information by just making another call. So, and this is how you get these features. There is a media type which I specify with the starting object element, and I can add a header, HTTP header, for interacting with the visitor object, and I set the content type, and that's actually also the one which you are using when you add this accept header in the REST client of Firefox. And then you can add here a start attribute, href attribute, where you can also use the router to generate the route to Easy Publish REST API, which is the name of the route. And then you have content ID, which you have to specify, which is data ID, of course. And then you have the and object element as well. Then you have a new REST controller, which basically does the same as before. It accesses your IPA service. It loads an IPA, and then it just returns the IPA. And because we are extending, the REST controller is extending from the REST, or the controller from the REST API module or component. There is like a Symfony listener which translates your IPA object by using your visitor to the actual output. It's maybe a little bit complicated, but after when you do it by yourself, you will see how it works. And what you also get from using this component is a cached value feature. You can have a cached value, which is basically the same, but you can specify stuff like, okay, this is my main location ID, and then you can use proxy solutions like, for example, Varnish, which purchases your content just if you change something on this location. But yeah, this is, I think it's a little bit advanced usage, but yeah, you get this for free if you want, or if you're using the EasyRest framework. All right, so this one is a new, another exercise, which I think is interesting because it's basically the one of the features you get when using Easy Publish, but it's probably not that much used. But if you want to try it, and then, because when you try it, then you know what are the advantages of it, and maybe also the disadvantages. We will see afterwards what I think they are, but I think it makes sense to, if you do this once, to find out if it suits you or not. The possible solution is called, is in the branch EasyRest -API, I think. You could also have just there a look, and then also use the REST client on Firefox to access your content. All right. Who wants to have more time for the EasyRest stuff? No one? Who wants to continue with the speak? Okay, that's enough. All right. All right. Now that you extended the Easy Publish REST framework or component, I think it's time to look at it and see what the advantages are and the disadvantages. The advantages are that you get an implementation of this MIME type stuff you get for free. And this is actually quite a nice feature. I think the REST API of Easy Publish is one of the most advanced REST APIs I've seen, because it's browsable and you have this MIME type support, and it's really nice because, for example, you can access the same resource, or you can access the content, and if you give the MIME type content, you get the real content, and if you specify the content type content info, just the content info gets loaded. And that's really nice. You get this for free. You also get for free the XML and JSON support. So it doesn't matter if your client wants XML or JSON. And with the cached value, you get the caching for free, but actually the caching in this case just means the proper HTTP headers. The visitor patterns actually is also very nice, I think. It's a nice solution for if you have like large objects of different types which are all connected together. Like for example, Easy Publish with this content info and content and location and stuff like that, where you have a graph of all your content, then the visitor pattern really is a very elegant solution. There are some disadvantages. As you can see, for the one domain API we created before, you didn't need an HTTP client. You could just like access it through normal route, and you got a normal HTTP JSON representation. For EasyREST API, to really use it, you also need to know about these MIME types and stuff like that. So you need to know which MIME type you're supposed to send to get a JSON representation. So there is a slightly bigger learning curve at the beginning, but it's all everything is like HTTP knowledge, but it's just not as accessible as like a custom API. And if you want to, I'm actually not really sure about that, but I think, or I know that in the if you have legacy, then you need to have a separate this URL prefix. I'm not sure if you can leave it away in Easy Platform. This could be, but yeah. And what's also, or that's also a little bit a personal view, but I think the visitors are really verbose, which I mean that you start by or even just to create a href attribute, you say like start attribute, and then href, and then the value, and then you have say generator and href attribute, and you just write a lot. But that's on the other hand, you really see what you do. But yeah, that's just a personal opinion. Okay, so that's a little bit of sum up of the EasyREST API component. I would like to go now into a really interesting or a powerful feature of Easy Publish or Easy Platform, which is called in Easy Platform, it's Easy Rich Text, and in Legacy, it's Easy XML Text. As I said, it's a very powerful feature, and yeah, Easy XML Text for the old one, and Rich Text for the new one. And I show you now a little bit of background that you see why we have issue here with creating a nice API. This is the internal, this is for Easy Rich Text, like this platform version. The other one is a little bit different, but basically has to say a little bit a different internal representation, but has about the same feature set, I think. So this is an internal representation of this demo content I created for the Punk IPA. and here I write, it's my favorite blah, blah, beer and blah, blah, blah. And then I have another image. And that's an interesting thing because here I don't have really the image in here, but I have a reference to an easy content, which actually makes this rich text this powerful feature it is. The easy embed means that there can be sub-views of this view. So the template of the description doesn't really have to know what's in there in this easy embed tag. It just says that, okay, there is something else. And then what actually happens, there is a sub-request on the Symfony framework, and it renders just this part of the easy embed, so just this image. So yeah, this makes it quite a powerful feature, because then you can override just, for example, you can say if I embed an image somewhere in the description text, I want to have it like this way. And yeah, this is really a nice feature. And yeah, I think also because one of the reasons why Easy is so popular, I think, one of them. And but the problem with it is that it's very hard to serialize. What I mean with it is it's even if we go, if we see it with the official Easy REST framework in a JSON representation, we still get an XML of this stuff, because it has to know, okay, this is text and this is an image, or this is an embedded image. And the problem with this approach is that with an API, we actually want to hide that we are using Easy Publish, because someone who wants to use our article, he shouldn't have to know that we're using Easy Publish, and he shouldn't have been, or he shouldn't have to know about Easy Embed. So with an API, as we said before, an API you only specify what and not how. So we also have the same problem with Swiss TV, of course. And what our solution was is that we basically let Easy do what it does really well, which is rendering. Rendering is with this template overrides and everything. It's really it's also with the ability to have like different overrides for different representations. It's yeah, it's quite powerful in doing that. And so what we did is basically we added 8 like URLs to different representations. So we have this representation, and then we have like the default HTML representation, which is this one, and then we have a Google AMP representation, which is, for example, this one. So the client can then decide for himself which representation he wants to display. And yeah, this there are from this approach there are actually 2 problems which you have to solve, but fortunately Easy really does a good job or provides just the right tools to do that. And one of the problems is that we have different representations, which means different templates. So, for example, if I want a HTML representation, I want an image to have an image tag like img, and if I'm in Google representation, Google AMP representation. I want the image to be represented by AMP-image, I think. And the second problem we have is that there are some representations which do not support all the easy embed stuff or all the content types you are going to embed. Google AMP is a good example of that because, for example, we have this live ticker, which is kind of a live blogging stuff at Swiss TV, which the journalists use quite often to indicate that it's like a live article just involving. And AMP by design at the moment doesn't support that. So we needed to have a Google AMP representation without those exactly embeds. So these are the two problems we need to solve. But as I said, there are standard easy ways to do that. And that's what we are going to do in the second half, basically, to have a look at those solutions. So the first problem is the ones with the different representations, which means different templates for the same content type. There is this concept of matchers. You have this easyplatform.yaml or the override ini in the legacy stack, where you can specify a certain template which is used when you have a content of a certain content type. And the good thing about it is that you can extend that. You can create your own criteria when to apply a certain template. And that's exactly what we do. We create a custom matcher. This one is actually the normal way to define a template override in Easy Platform. You have this template here, and then you have this match, and then you have the identifier content type is image. So all the images in the embed view type or embed view name, we are using this template to do that. And what we do is we extend this match by our own matcher. So I've created an app matcher representation. That's just the way I name my services. You could do whatever you want here. And I say, okay, this is used for AMP. You see it also here in the namespace, or actually the directory of the templates. And then what I do in the controller, I get this matcher from the service container, and I set the representation to AMP. And then I use the normal render call I would do with every controller. And then the matcher itself, there is also some part of the framework of Easy Platform is already given. So the representation extends to multiple valued matcher. And multiple valued means just that you can add different, not only AMP, but also AMP / something else. And then I just have this match function to implement. And here I return true or false. And if these values, means AMP, match with the representation name I got here, then it's true or false. Like this, I can specify different template for AMP representation than I'm using for HTML representation. So, the aim of the next exercise is actually, you see here I have this detail view of the punk IPA, and this is the display of the description, and I have an image here which is easy embed, and I want to have this template here which says now there is no image here. So I am now able to use this one. So, there's actually a branch called Representations. It starts on the EasyRest API branch. Oh, I already checked it out. Sorry. And what I do, what you can do now is to create a known matcher, which is here in the matcher namespace, and basically do what I showed earlier with this multiple valued stuff class. Which is also from Easy Publish. And then, when you did this, you can create an override. Here, the embed tag. Embed is just the view type which is used by Easy Publish for easy embed stuff. And you can say, okay, if the representation name is no image, then I want to display this other template. And in the controller, finally, you say here. This is the controller which is used for detail views. Here, if you get the app matcher representation and I say set representation name, no image. So this is this exercise. So yeah, you can either do it by yourself or switch to the branch and check out the solution, which is actually just partly working because there are also there's also embed tag called easy embed inline, and this isn't handled, but it's about the same. If you want, I could go through the details or the workflow of this matcher if you want, and go through the code if it helps. All right. All right. It actually starts in the backend. which is loading now. And there I have my Punk IPA, which I edit. And here is an image embedded. So you can, when you click on this add button, you can basically add whatever you want. Here, this embed tag, and then you can choose whatever you want. And this leads to maybe we can have a look. I always forget. Sorry, stay with me here. Okay, so then if you look here, we have a JSON representation, and then if we go down into the fields, you have here, this is the description, and you have an XML. When I can, if I can copy that. So if you would inspect this new file, all right. This didn't work. Well, if you would inspect it, you would see that there is this easy embed tags in it. And what easy really does is when I have this IPA controller here, which is used for the detail view. And here I can add some custom stuff I want to do. I add here a brewery parameter, and I also set the representation name. So I get this matcher I created and tell him, okay, the representation name is no images. And now what Easy does is I just return the view, and then Easy goes through it and it sees, oh, okay, this is a rich text, Easy rich text field. It renders the normal template of the Easy rich text field, and this one sees, okay, I have an Easy image, and then if it has an Easy image, then it looks into here, the Easy platform YAML, and with the embed view type, it looks if some of this overrides match, and it sees, okay, I have an image, and then this app matcher representation gets called, which in turn is running this match function, and then I say, okay, true or false. And because it is an image, and we said that the representation name is no images, it then takes the template I specified here, which just outputs the embed. There is no image here. So that's basically what it does. So it's basically just Easy Platform or Easy Publish doing its normal rendering stuff, and we tell it to use this template if the representation name is like that. All right, is this about clear?
What do you get in the result?
The result is the rendered.
How can I see there is no image here? I would like to see this somewhere.
The string is, you mean the internal representation?
Sorry?
Which one did you mean?
You create a template image HTML with the content. There is no image here. Can you show the screen when I can see this
Ah,
in the browser?
yes, of course. That's actually this one. This is just a normal rendering of Easy Publish of this Punk IPA detail view, and then it says there is no image here, so it takes this template.
How to send description to the REST API response? Like now when we ask IPA with the REST API, it doesn't return description, right?
Yeah.
So we could actually add descriptions there, and then it will show no image here there, or how?
No, actually, what actually we do is that we don't send the actual rendered view. We just send a link to.
But if you want to send a description in the REST API.
Yeah, that's really the problem here, because it's not easy to serialize this this rich text, this XML into into an entity which is really independent of Easy Publish, because you would have to serialize Easy Image, and Easy Image is always bound to Easy Publish. And because we want to have a representation which is independent of what we're really storing, we just send representation links.
But okay, it's either related to how we store it, or it is rendered to how we want to receive it.
Yes.
So, okay, but like in your case, you just choose okay, just not to show it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and it's also it's because Easy Publish really it's really good framework for doing stuff like that. So yeah, we're doing it like this.
For example, we could decide to have a description, for example, in HTML representation inside JSON API.
Mm.
And then we would render that field and
Mm-hmm.
put it there.
Exactly. All right. You're already ready for the next challenge? There is one more, but it's the last one. So. Or 2 minutes, or who wants to proceed now? All right. All right. So now on to the last challenge of today, well, in this workshop at least. Now that we have solved that you can have different representations for different or different templates for different representations, this leads to another problem. The problem is that, for example, as I said before, Google AMP, for example, doesn't support everything. So what I would have to do is that I create an empty template or something, and then I override all the content types which I don't, or which the representation doesn't support, and then I will be done. But this is from a maintenance point of view very bad, because when you create a new representation, you really have to add an override rule for every representation and for every content type, which really leads to override hell, which probably everybody who uses Easy Publish, the old one at least, have been in there, because with override.ini like this. And yeah, that's not a really nice solution for that. So yeah, you would need a lot of empty templates for new representations. It turns out that as we could solve it also with Easy Publish, like basic stuff, and also with special tag in the Symfony dependency injection container. Because we have a look at this easy rich text field type. The easy rich text field type has different outputs. You can translate it into XHTML5, or there is a special representation called XHTML5_edit. The edit representation or edit output is actually used in the backend for what you see there. And it turns out that the field type actually has so-called renderer, which are classes which get to be called after each other, and which can modify the internal XML of this rich text field. One moment. So what we do is that we create a custom renderer which does kind of clean out all the different content types we do not allow in this representation. So in a Google AMP representation, we would, for example, delete all the live ticker embeds. So the rich text renderers are specified as a lot of other stuff via these tags of the dependency injection container from Symfony. And you could, or you can actually add a priority. This is actually a new one which just is true for the rich text renderer. Easy XML text doesn't support this priority. So yeah, there has to be another way to do that. But we can do it for the easy rich text field. And there is the priority 10. The priority null is a link renderer, which extends links. And the embed renderer actually does this stuff that he replaces easy embed with the rendered output of, let's say, an image or whatever. And what we do, we create a new priority 5, which is called a embed reducer. All right. So we have a rich text reducer, which extends render, and it implements converter. Yeah, because that's how rich text is implemented. And then what's interesting is this convert function, where you get the DOM document and you return the same DOM document, and you can do whatever you want with this DOM document. And because we intercept these calls, we do it before the embed renderer replaces all the tags. And then what we do is that we get all the easy embeds here, get elements by tag name, easy embed, and then we loop through it gets the href, which is always like easy content or easy location, column, and then the ID, content ID or location ID. And then we ask the active representation if it supports the embed, and if not, we go to the parent node and remove it, the child. So that's basically the idea. You can then register the rich text reducer as this. You say, that's my class. You need the argument. This is also implementation detail from rich text. And then you say, this is the tag, and priority is 5. So this makes sure it's before the embed renderer. So I think we can do this together now. All right. So the tag is called rich text reducer, and it's it's building on top of the last one, representations, and what is new is actually this class, rich text reducer. And interesting is this one, this function called convert, where you get this DOM document, and then, as said before, I get the isembed elements, I loop through it, and here I do, because it's always either easy content column content ID or easy location column location ID. I need to check if it's easy content or easy location. Right now I just support easy content, and then I load the content info for this content object, and I see if it's an image. Maybe a small note here, you have these content types. I just use this that I don't have to remember that content type image is ID 5 or IPA is ID 15. All right. So yeah, and then I just check if I want to embed an image. If I want to embed an image, I remove the child. So then the embed renderer, which comes after me, doesn't see it anymore. And that's actually it. I register it in the services.yaml. Here I have app rich text converter reducer. I have here the class, the argument which is needed by rich text, and then I also need the service, the content service from Easy Publish. And I say this is the tag, and the priority is 5, which means it gets executed before embed. So that's actually the trick. And yeah, it's actually showing that this easy rich text is both quite a powerful feature, but makes it quite hard to serialize it. Yeah, as we said before. I don't know if you want to have a look at this again, or I am actually finished. But we can, if you want. This is actually the last one. So who wants to do it by himself or herself? All right. So who want to continue? Okay, here it is. Thank you.